The invasion that everyone feared was no longer an if. It was a when. By the summer of 1940, Europe had fallen silent under the boots of the German war machine, and Britain stood as the last obstacle before Hitler's total domination. The skies above London burned at night, while in the tunnels beneath Whitehall, Winston Churchill faced a truth few dared to speak aloud. Traditional armies could not win a war fought in the shadows. Something unconventional, unpredictable, and utterly secret had to be born. In that darkness of uncertainty, Churchill's voice cut through like flint against steel. "Set Europe ablaze," he ordered, 4 words that would ignite an invisible revolution. Within weeks, plans were whispered through the corridors of power. A new organization, the Special Operations Executive, was conceived, a force that would fight not with divisions and tanks, but with deception, sabotage, and courage hidden behind ordinary faces. It would answer only to Churchill himself, existing outside military convention, its agents drawn not from the parade grounds, but from the pubs, universities, and factories of Britain. The world above continued its march of uniforms and medals, but below it, a quiet storm began to gather. In anonymous offices and safe houses, men and women were recruited for a mission they could never speak of again. Their training would break them down and rebuild them into something the enemy could never anticipate. Ghosts. No flags, no recognition, no return guaranteed. Theirs was a war of whispers and coded messages, of midnight landings and lives lived on borrowed time. Britain was preparing not just for defense, but for reinvention. The empire of the visible was collapsing, and in its place, a secret army was taking shape, one that would fight without acknowledgement, win without applause, and vanish without trace. From these shadows, modern espionage was about to be born. They came from everywhere, and from nowhere. The Special Operations Executive didn't recruit soldiers. It recruited potential. Farmers, linguists, socialites, engineers, even a few artists. People whose ordinary lives could conceal extraordinary courage. To the untrained eye, they were unremarkable. To the SOE, they were invisible weapons waiting to be forged. Each candidate was summoned under vague pretexts, handed an envelope marked confidential, and told that what they were about to do would never be acknowledged by their country. Many would not even tell their families they had joined anything at all. Hidden deep within the British countryside, the training estates looked like old manor houses and quiet farmlands. But behind their ivy-covered walls, a different kind of war was being waged. Recruits learned to kill silently with a knife, to build bombs from ordinary household materials, to vanish into crowds, and to survive with nothing but their wits. Instructors pushed them to exhaustion, breaking down hesitation, fear, and even morality. "You must think like a criminal," one trainer told them, "because in this war, rules will get you killed." Each agent was stripped of their name and given a new identity, one that could crumble under interrogation if not perfectly lived. The tests were merciless. Some failed within days, unable to stomach the weight of deception or the cold efficiency of killing. Others passed with unnerving calm. Among them were women who would later redefine the image of courage: Violette Szabo, Odette Sansom, nor Inayat Khan, names that history would almost forget, yet whose resolve changed the course of war. These individuals were not driven by glory or greed, but by conviction, the belief that victory might depend on a single message, a single act of sabotage, a single breath of defiance behind enemy lines. When their training ended, There were no parades, no medals, no farewells. They left at night, often in silence, carrying forged papers, cyanide pills, and the knowledge that they might never return. The moment they stepped onto the waiting aircraft, their lives as civilians were erased. Ahead of them lay a Europe shrouded in occupation, and a kind of warfare the world had never seen before. They were ready to set foot where armies could not march. The war was about to enter its darkest and most secret phase. Occupied Europe was a world smothered in fear. Every street corner had eyes, every whisper carried risk, and yet, in that atmosphere of terror, the invisible army began its work. Under the cover of night, small planes slipped through the clouds, dropping agents and supplies into fields marked only by faint lanterns or the glint of moonlight on metal. Each landing was a gamble. One wrong signal, one suspicious villager, and the mission could vanish before it began. But for those who survived the jump, the war had truly begun. Behind enemy lines, the agents of Churchill's secret army became masters of adaptation. They forged new lives as farmers, shopkeepers, or traveling salesmen, blending seamlessly into communities under Nazi rule. Every conversation was a test, every glance a potential betrayal. Radios the size of briefcases were hidden under floorboards, transmitting coded messages to London. Bridges and railways exploded in the night, delaying German convoys bound for the front. A single cut wire or derailed train could save hundreds of Allied lives. But for the agents who pulled those triggers, there was no celebration, only the cold urgency to move, to hide, to survive another day. Among them was Violette Szabo, a young mother turned operative, who led sabotage missions across France with remarkable audacity. Noor Inayat Khan, a pacifist by nature, became one of the most skilled wireless operators in occupied Paris, staying on the run for months after her network was captured. Their bravery came at a terrible price. Many were betrayed by double agents, arrested, tortured, and executed. Captured spies were denied the rights of soldiers, their deaths unrecorded, their graves unmarked. For many, the memories remained locked away, surfacing only in dreams or fragments of conversation decades later. The weight of what they had done and what they had lost lingered quietly behind their eyes. Their achievements, however, refused to stay buried. As documents were declassified years later, historians discovered how profoundly the SOE had shaped modern intelligence. Its training manuals became the foundation for post-war agencies like MI6, MI9, and the newly formed CIA. Techniques once considered radical, covert operations, psychological warfare, sabotage, networks, became the standard playbook of global espionage. The world had entered a new era, one where wars would be fought as much in shadows and whispers as in open fields. Yet behind every modern intelligence triumph lay the memory of those nameless figures who had tested the limits of courage. They had proven that warfare was not only about weapons and armies, but about intellect, deception, and the human spirit's capacity to endure. In their secrecy, they had redefined what it meant to fight for freedom, not for glory, but for something far greater. As the last of them faded into history, their legacy endured in every clandestine operation and every agent who worked unseen. They were the architects of modern espionage, the pioneers of a hidden world that still shapes global power today. And though their missions ended in 1945, the war they began, the invisible war of information, deception, and control, never truly ended. It simply changed names, changed faces, and continued in the quiet places where history is still being written in secret.